And a very good morning to you. This is the Talk of the Town. And our guest this morning is Ms. Sankhitha Gunaratne from Transparency International Sri Lanka. Let's get straight to the issue. We've got so many bills here, and one more bill apparently causing consternation and concern amongst the public, the people. So what is the anti-corruption bill?
So in terms of the anti-corruption bill, what it does is it seeks to repeal and replace 3 laws that are currently in existence. That is the Bribery Act, the Commission to Investigate Allegations of Bribery or Corruption, or CEBOC Act. That's the act that sets out the parameters of the Bribery Commission. And then the Asset Declaration Law of 1975. Now these laws have been in existence for a couple of decades, and they have ceased to be fit for purpose over time and needed to be updated. Certain fines needed to be updated. New forms of corruption have the need to be recognized. There are international norms and standards that need to be incorporated and enabled into Sri Lanka's domestic law. So that's what this law seeks to do and sets out to do. This
anti-corruption bill doesn't target any particular group of people.
It's not intended to. What it does is it sets out the framework of anti-corruption in Sri Lanka, the broad contours of it, and it doesn't necessarily identify groups of people, but it recognizes forms of corruption.
But it's sort of linked, one of the things it's linked to is your asset declaration.
Yes.
So does that go to the heart of Sri Lanka's parliament?
Yes, it does. So for years, our organization, Transparency International Sri Lanka, has been asking that asset declarations should not only be filed and then hidden away in some confidential file and back office somewhere, but that they should be available for public consumption, for public debate and perusal, so that the public can also, and the voters can make up their own minds as to whether they're voting for candidates and people who are actually acting in the public interest and not in the private interest or for private gain or for illicit enrichment. So in terms of that campaign, for years we know that there have only been 16, 17 MPs who have on their own made their asset declarations public. But in this bill, what it requires should be done is that the Bribery Commission will have a central electronic platform where all asset declarations will be submitted electronically, and within 3 months of them being submitted, that a redacted version where personal information and sensitive information is redacted would be made available for public consumption.
Right.
So it goes to the heart of the matter in that sense, in 2 ways. One is by enabling public access to asset declarations, and secondly by ensuring that all information is available in one place so that law enforcement can actually take action. Because what happened so far, as I said, was that they were hidden away in files and offices and cupboards across a disparate number of public authorities, but no one would check them and flag them up and verify whether illicit enrichment has indeed happened. But this electronic system would have a red flag system that would flag up if there has been a sudden acquisition of wealth or a suspicious transaction that has been identified.
Is this many moons away?
So according to the agreement that Sri Lanka has made with the IMF, this law is intended to be passed by June this year. So it may be as close as 2 months away, but it still needs to get through Parliament. It may be challenged in the Supreme Court. We know that it was placed on the order paper of Parliament yesterday. So subject to those hurdles being passed, and we are requesting that certain changes, further changes, be incorporated into this bill so that it can indeed actually address the things that it seeks to address. And then we are hopeful that it will be passed.
It's often asked, but what are the good things about this anti-corruption bill? Is there anything good?
So one thing is that it recognizes offences that were not recognized as offences before. For example, it brings private sector bribery within the ambit of this law.
So what does that mean? Somebody from the private sector tries to bribe somebody in the government sector, then that bribe-giving person is also responsible.
That is already part of the law,
right.
But the current law isn't adapted to hold the private sector responsible. The offences are not geared for the private sector. So this to some extent fixes that problem, but in addition to that, it makes private sector bribery vis-a-vis another private sector entity also, it brings that also within the definition of corruption or bribery. So that's one thing it does. A second thing it does is that, and this is a debate that is happening right now about sexual bribery. Now, sexual gratification was previously also encompassed within the Bribery Act under the definition of gratification. That is, if a person went and made a